Welcome to Leo season. This new moon in Leo, plus the Lionsgate portal, and Venus retrograde in Leo, kazimi Leo. If it's one thing it does, is it puts the spotlight on you. I was actually going to do a separate reading just for the Lionsgate, but then it started adding up with Venus going underworld, and that astrology, which would have been the astrology of the next 2 weeks, also includes the new moon in Leo. So in this reading, we're going to go into depth about the power that these weeks ahead of us represent and how they culminate in that new moon in Leo. Leo gives main character. If there's one thing Leo's gonna do, it's give main character. So I think get ready to take center stage in your life in every way. Every way. So we have the Lionsgate portal that has been open since the 28th of July. This portal will reach its peak on August 8th, and it will close on August 12th. But for this reading, the significance of the movements of these astral movements is marked from the 6th of August when Venus went underworld until about the 19th of August when Venus will re-emerge on the horizon. And during that time, we will have the new moon in Leo on August the 16th. So these are quite significant times. Now, Leo is ruled by the sun. And when we have a new moon, we have both the sun and the moon in the same sign, which means that this new moon in Leo has you as the main character. It's all about you. Everything you think it is begins with you. Just like the sun is at the center of the galaxy, you are at the center of your life. And the astrology of these weeks, including Venus kazimi Leo, just keep adding the volume on the brightness of that spotlight. Now, if you're new here and these terms seem intimidating, there's no need to worry. Welcome to Sangoma Society, where we demystify the ancestral and the astral. I am Makhosi Nomabutho. I'm an indigenous African healer initiated into the ancient practices and ways of being that we discuss here. We do these readings of the astral bodies in the context of ubunyanga bethu. African astrology is collective, in the sense that we look at our individual contribution to the collective as participation in broader community, which makes us who we are. Singabantu, ngabantu, masisho isintu. We do these readings for the person who knows themselves to be affected by the movements of the astral bodies and seeks to live their life in rhythm with these movements for a more conscious and intentional way of being in the world. Now, the highlights that we will see in the coming weeks, including the new moon in Leo on Wednesday, the 16th of August, the current significance of Venus, which has gone underworld, meaning that we cannot see Venus in the night sky from our perspective here on Earth. As Venus nears the sun at its closest orbit of the sun, it will only be 17 minutes away from the sun. This will happen on Sunday the 13th of August, and The Lionsgate portal is going to peak a few days before that on the 8th of August. For us here at Sangoma Society, we've already been working with the energy of the Lionsgate portal for some weeks since it opened on the 28th of July. Through pivoting into purpose, we've been leaning into this very purpose-driven energy. But through this reading, we believe that you should be able to find how you can lean into this energy that is being aligned by these transits to align yourself with your own personal purpose right now. This new moon in Leo comes during the season yokuzinza for us in Southern Africa. The month of August is the time in which we refrain from visiting the rivers and mountains or being outside of home as part of spiritual practice. We actually stay home and wait out Mother Earth's season of recalibrating herself in preparation for the spring, which will come with the African New Year at the end of September. This is the month that we get our spirit, our inner lives, and our homes in order. It's in September that we will head out for cleansing and calling in the intentions that we've set during this time with the new year. We will plant the seeds of those intentions. With the year-end solstice, we will observe the harvest of the first fruit. And with the next equinox, we celebrate harvest and prepare for winter, fortifying ourselves and gathering what we need so that when the mid-year solstice comes, we can retreat once again and observe the season that we're in right now. That is the rhythm of the seasons and spirituality and work for us in this little part of Africa. And this particular season of ukuzinza has brought with it Venus retrograde in Leo. Now, this retrograde has already been marked by a light being shone into the shadow aspects of life governed by Venus. We're seeing the truth of what lies behind the relationships that we share with others, and perhaps in the press, some other truths about other people's relationships. Even so, Venus retrograde is yet to peak. The peak will be on the day that Venus is kazimi on the 13th of August. When a planet is kazimi, we can sometimes feel the energy of that planet more than we feel the energy of the sun on that particular day. When a planet is too close to the sun, it can be harmed by this proximity. However, it's also possible that the planet is purified, empowered, and transformed when kazimi. We can actually experience the effects of that transformation in the area of our lives that the planet rules. That can sometimes feel painful, but it can also be auspicious for these areas of life that the planet rules. So think of a kazimi planet like one of those experiments that we used to do in primary school. I don't know if we were being naughty or if this was real science, but there was this experiment that we did using dried grass and a magnifying glass. And we used the magnifying glass to concentrate the light of the sun onto the dried grass, thereby igniting it into flames. Think of the planet, which is kazimi, in this case Venus, as the magnifying glass, and the sun is the sun, and perhaps you are the grass in this instant, and that's where you might feel the intensity of this transit. We've already spoken about Venus retrograde extensively in the retrograde reading, but here we go. Watch out for exes coming back into your life. These are people that you should probably not be with. There's very high possibility of karmic conception here. I literally shared today that if you're going to take your ex back right now, you might as well just sign the co-parenting agreement before you start having sex, because you're gonna break up again. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. This is not the time to be reconciling with people that you've broken up with. It's a time maybe where you can be recommitting in existing relationships. But you already know why you left. We really covered it. And something else that we covered is that it's not a good time to be cutting your hair. Okay? No drastic cosmetic surgery. Can we wait it out at least until after September 3rd? Ideally, sometime in the early parts of October. It's just not ideal. The stars are not aligned. I mean, for someone who's obviously been contemplating it for a long time, something that you're returning to, it's a recommitment to something you know yourself to be, okay, take the risk, jump in. You're probably seeing these details with greater intensity because of the retrograde. So if there's someone safe whom you've worked with before in that area of your life, then you can do that. But new things with new people in that area of aesthetics, drastic movements, I don't know. I really hope I don't overemphasize this, but man, what's tried and tested is what you want. Okay, so what is this time good for? This is a beautiful time for closing out karmic cycles and actually ending karmic relationships. I found this retrograde to be so gentle with how we end relationships, with how intentional we can be in how we end relationships. Of course, we're seeing messier breakups happening out there. I guess what you put into the relationship is going to be what you get out of it. But if it was a beautiful relationship, but it is at the end of its karmic cycle, and the agreements that you've made together on a higher plane are now fulfilled, then this is a beautiful time to culminate that in a gentle uncoupling. It's also a significant time you can use for stopping karmic cycles within your relationship with yourself and your community. So again, it marks a beautiful moment in which you can recommit to the relationships that you value and participate in. Kodwa if umsebenzile umuntu ukuthi akuthande, shem liyophela lelo thando this month. If you've been using love spells in order to attach someone to you, then it's going to backfire right now. If you want this to go easy on you and you can already see the cracks in your juju, shesha ukhulule isibopho. Do what you can to undo the love spell and leave the person to their own intentions. Trust what you've shared with them to be enough for them to see the value in the relationship that you share. If you're thinking that you can ride it out, Brace yourself for the blowout and the blowback, because it's coming. Trust me. If you suspect that you might be under the influence of a love spell yourself, and you want to use this Venus kazimi to break free, make sure that you sign up for the Breakaway from Sangoma Society. The Breakaway is a treatment that involves the inner work as well as a cleansing that allows you to untangle yourself from soul ties, love spells, sexual trauma, and any interference in the space and energy of your sacral chakra and the love and creativity that you want to create in your romantic life. The work is effective whenever you choose to do it, but we always ensure that we share the most opportune moments for the easiest experience with the work that we offer. Venus Kazimi Leo is asking you about where you put yourself in relation to others, your community, what permissions you grant and deny yourself. Do you give yourself permission? Do you give yourself permission to do the work? Do you give yourself to participate where you're invited? Or are you waiting for the right version of yourself to show up in order for you to participate? We deny ourselves participation in our own creativity, participation in romance, participation in community, in life, with the rules that we make up in our heads about the versions of ourselves that are permitted in the spaces that we want to occupy. And for us in our healing community, we've seen that it's common that we deny ourselves our own community and healing more often than not. And quite often, the culprit is religious trauma, which informs a story that only the worthy can be in certain spaces, and we have to earn our place in order to participate. Meanwhile, we're in need of community and safe space and to share our experiences with this thing called life and what it's like for a person who holds the perspectives and beliefs that we hold in a world that does not. We spoke about this theme in our most recent session with Pivoting into Purpose participants, and I wanted to share a snippet of that conversation with you. We uploaded it onto our YouTube channel as a video titled The Role of Community in Our Personal Healing Journey. That discussion brought forward a few journal prompts that I think are significant to the collective at this moment in time. I do want to say that only one portion of the conversation was recorded, and I record having informed everyone that the response I'm going to give here is one that I think is beneficial to the collective. So I'll ask everyone to mute themselves, and that's what we do. Everybody is protected by an NDA within that space. There is no need to introduce yourself or contextualize your experience beyond just sharing what you want to share in that moment and participating within the community that you make a part of as a participant of any one of our programs. Each program has its own community space and time. Right now, we're meeting every week until the African New Year, and we started meeting every week when the Lionsgate portal opened because these are unprecedented times and they require an unprecedented approach. And with that said, let us note down these journal prompts for the next few weeks and into the new moon. Who are you in your singular human experience? What is community to you, and how do you show up in these relationships? The one with yourself, with others, with your ancestors, with your purpose. Why do you show up the way that you show up? What is your intention in these relationships? And what does your intention serve to yourself and those whom you relate to in self, love, and community? Venus at its current station really is bringing us back to that same singularity that the Dogon festival of Sigwi represents. All of what we've discussed up until now will be happening during the Lionsgate portal. Now, I researched this particular reading for a solid 3 days. My goodness, I don't know how it is that the longer I do this, the more work it takes to do this. It's not getting easier, but I am learning so much and loving the evolution of the process. And well, in my research, I found that the Dogon people are being erased from Lionsgate astrology because the current rhetoric is simplifying this moment into the alignment of the Earth, Sirius, and Orion's belt being in alignment. Are colonizers colonizing? Because the significance of Sirius to us here on Earth cannot be separated from the African creation story and its keepers, the Dogon people. In modern astronomy, yes, it is noted that Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. Sirius means glowing in Greek. It's also the star which the ancient Egyptians would note, because when Sirius becomes visible once again on the 8th of August or on around the 8th of August, depending on the year, that would also indicate the time at which the flooding of the Nile would happen, and that is significant for their farming calendar. However, it is the Dogon people, a group of people indigenous to the ancient kingdom of Mali, south of the Niger Bend in West Africa, that have the longest documented history acknowledging Sirius. The Dogon are interesting in that their language is not linked to any other languages, and they were one of the last groups of people to lose their independence and come under colonization under the French. And for a large part of history, the Dogon people can be credited for preserving the ancient mysteries of African astronomy. Many of our teachers who have preserved this knowledge and shared it have been informed by the knowledge preserved and passed on by these people. For millennia, the Dogon have been documented celebrating the new year of the dwarf star Sirius B. The planet or star Sirius B orbits Sirius A every 57 and a half years. But it wasn't until the mid-1950s that modern astronomy discovered Sirius B. Yet, for 2,000 years of documented Dogon history, there have been these celebrations every 57 and a half years in the festival known as Sigwi. The significance of Sirius B to the Dogon people is this is known as the planet that is home to humanity, where we originate from as beings, as consciousness. And in this understanding, the human species is not unique as a life form in the broader universe. According to this creation story, we originate from Sirius B, and Sirius A would have been our sun. And so the Dogon people have been essentially celebrating the Lionsgate every 57 and a half years for millennia. However, we mark this time now every year for its significance astrologically and what it makes possible for us as humanity. It is taught that when those who descended from Sirius B arrived on Earth, each being was a twin. Legend speaks to the first single being that of a jackal, and so began the experience of singularity on Earth. Now, what I've just said is a simplification of a much longer history. However, the Lionsgate portal represents to me the singular experience of being human on Earth and how we battle to manifest in our singularity on this plane in the third dimension. And this moment offers an opportunity to reconcile all elements of ourselves with our human incarnation and form. The Dogon festival of Sigwi and its incorporation into popular astrology as the Lionsgate portal during the month of Leo is not coincidence, as the sun is significant in Dogon astrology, and Leo, which is ruled by the sun in Vedic astrology, represents the self, the ego, the concept of who we know ourselves to be. The Dogon festival of Sigwi essentially serves as a means to inform culture on Earth on how to exist in the singularity of this third dimensional manifestation of life that we came to be following the gods' manifestation on Earth. The gods existed in duality or as twins, but humans, though they retain these dualities, struggle with the harmony of this existence here on Earth in this manifestation. And as such, rites and rituals as pertaining to the singularity of the human experience were adapted into the spiritual practice of the Dogon people. The one we note today being the one in acknowledgement of human death on Earth, the Sigwi festival. And for the years in between the actual Sigwi festival, we can see this moment as an experience of ego death, an opportunity to surrender as part of the human experience, to allow the beliefs we hold about who we are to die so that the truth of who we are can live. A moment to surrender to our highest selves, who hold the perspectives of the purpose of our human incarnation from the fourth dimension into this one. As the origin of human life as we know it on earth, Sirius is referenced as our spiritual sun. If the ancestors of humanity as a whole call Sirius B home, then this planetary alignment allows for us to tap into higher consciousness, a consciousness that is cognizant of humanity as a whole beyond our singular human experience. Ultimately, what I believe is the most significant lesson that I can take from the Dogon people is the understanding of what we typically call faith. Often what we see from the perspective of our higher selves, our hopes, our dreams, and the purpose of what we are called to do in this life. That self is the self that exists in the fourth dimension. And what I have seen from the history of these people is that keeping a clear line of sight on what you know to be true for your highest self and acting on it, even if those around you do not understand, that is the preservation and manifestation of your ultimate truth. With every new moon, there is an opportunity to use the harmony of the sun and the moon being in the same sign to set your intentions. And so we invite you to step into this portal of ascension by joining us in Pivoting into Purpose, which is our new moon ritual. We do this from solstice to solstice. On the 8th of August, we will close enrollment until the upcoming solstice. This is the moment that we use for getting back to center. So because we have a season of unprecedented astrology, we have approached this cycle of pivoting into purpose in a fairly unprecedented way, which is we've gone back to the very first way in which we did pivoting into purpose, which was 1 week at a time over the course of 6 weeks back in November and December of 2020. The clarity that brought, the certainty that it brought, the community that it provided. I cannot say enough how much it nurtures one's own vision to be in community with people who have set similar intentions for ascension in their lives, who are prepared to step into the vulnerability of the unknown. Because we're not all strong at the same time. Sometimes some of us have more clarity than others. Sometimes some of us have more determination than others. But when we're together doing the work in the spaces that we are able to do this work, we can support each other during those moments of uncertainty. And definitely, retrogrades can feel like uncertain footing. But when you're working with your highest self, as well as your ancestors, to bring into harmony and affirmation and a positive action plan your highest vision for your life, in a community that supports that, please, it makes the retrograde season into a return to self, a return to purpose, and definitely gives you everything that you need in order to reclaim the power that you may have left on the doorstep of the wrong relationship, or taking the long way around to the path that you really wanted to be on because you believed that you needed certain permissions, or at the uncelebrated milestones that you crossed in the past. Wherever it is, this new moon in Leo says that the place that you left your power at is the place that you can go to reclaim it, so that you can step forward into the coming season knowing that you are the main character in the story of your life, and you're writing that life one decision at a time into the most beautiful, beautiful version of who you were meant to be. Mina Makhosi Nomabutho. This is Sangoma Society, where we demystify the ancestral and the astral. We hope that this conversation, looking ahead at these few weeks of challenging astrology, has given you the confidence that you need to step in this Leo season with your heart wide open, letting the sun shine in so it can do its work and shine its light on all those parts of yourself that you're ready to love back into being again. Until next time, Ukari.